Behind the Line Extra for your Saturday, November 23rd, 2019. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Cleveland defensive end Myles Garrett has dominated the headlines again this week. During the appeal of his suspension for whacking Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph with his helmet last Thursday night, Garrett said the reason that he acted the way he did was because Mason Rudolph had used a racial slur against him. Now, the NFL has come out and said that they found no evidence that Rudolph used any kind of racial slur against Myles Garrett. But a couple of things here that I was thinking about yesterday when I was reading about this story. First, let's assume for a second that what Myles Garrett is saying is true. Does that give him the right to assault someone with a helmet? Think about it. By doing that, he turns himself into the bad guy. If Mason Rudolph had indeed called Myles Garrett the N-word or what have you, wouldn't it be better to call him out for it publicly or do anything other than what Myles Garrett did in response? I mean, if he punched him in the face for doing that, I would understand. But hitting him with a helmet is going way over the line. That being said, I don't believe Myles Garrett. I don't think Mason Rudolph called him the N-word or said anything like that to him. For starters, there's 20 other men on the field. So if Mason Rudolph had said something that egregious, wouldn't someone else have heard him say it? What makes me question Garrett's credibility in this situation is, why are we just now hearing about this? If this actually happened, why didn't he come out after the game and tell the media that the reason he swung his helmet was because he was called a racial slur? It makes no sense that he held this information for a full week until he had his appeal hearing with the league's front office. Now, Garrett's come out and stated that he didn't want the accusation to be leaked to the public, that he was assured that it would be kept confidential. That also makes no sense to me. Myles Garrett's doing absolutely nothing to help his case. He's actually hindering it, in my opinion. The problem I have with this, and this is strictly speaking as a suburban white guy in his mid-30s, this is my perspective. But Garrett making what I believe is a false accusation as serious as this, pulling the race card to justify his actions, it makes it really difficult to believe something like this when it actually happens. You know, take rape, for example. Special victims detectives hate false rape accusations because it makes it extremely hard for real rape victims to come forward. It's already hard for them to come forward. But when somebody comes out with false accusations, it makes real victims hard to be believed. This situation's similar. When you make a false accusation dealing with something like race, it makes it really hard for guys like me to believe someone else who's an actual victim of racism. Not to mention the fact that he's slandering Mason Rudolph's character. It's not enough that you tried to downsize his face with your helmet. Now you're coming out publicly and for all intents and purposes calling him a racist. All right, let's move on. The Indianapolis Colts are staring at a crossroads when it comes to Jacoby Brissett. I'll admit, I've waffled back and forth on Brissett since about August this year when Andrew Luck retired. Before the season, I said he wouldn't be able to carry this team offensively. Colts would be lucky to finish 8-8. Then he strung together 3 or 4 games in a row where he was playing lights out. Had a big game against the Falcons, had a career game against the Texans back in October. It was starting to appear to me that Jacoby Brissett had gotten over the hump, so to speak. It was on his way to becoming a legitimate threat at quarterback. But now, after watching that game against the Texans Thursday night, I'm once again of the opinion that he's not the future quarterback for the Colts. Brissett was just god-awful in that game. It appears that Frank Reich is fully aware of his limitations. With the Colts trailing by 3 in the fourth quarter, Reich had them running the ball twice as much as they were passing. 10-5 run-pass ratio on their final 2 drives of the game, trailing on the road. You would think with the running game Indianapolis has, it would open up the play-action pass and the deep ball downfield. The problem is, Brissett can't throw the ball downfield. And he won't throw the ball downfield. He always makes the safe pass, always hitting his check down receiver. Not one Indianapolis receiver had a catch Thursday night that was over 14 yards. Frank Reich is on the sideline watching Deshaun Watson burn them a couple of times downfield with deep passes, knowing that his quarterback isn't capable of doing the same thing. You can make the case that Brissett takes good care of the football. He limits turnovers. 15 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. You can make the case that he's middle of the pack with completion percentage, yards per attempt, QBR. You know what middle of the pack quarterback play gets you in the NFL? An 8-8 record. Jacoby Brissett's a serviceable backup. He's the guy you want on your team if your starting quarterback is lost for 5 or 6 weeks. A guy who can come in and get you to 3-2, 4-1, something like that. If Andrew Luck was under center, this Colts team would be 9-2 or 8-3 right now, instead of sitting at 6-5. This team is so loaded with talent on both sides of the ball. Best offensive line in the NFL. Brissett has all the time he needs to find open receivers. Yet he only averages 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Jacoby Brissett's average pass travels about 7.2 yards through the air. That's just not going to get it done. If you pose no threat down the field, it makes it too easy for defenses to do exactly what the Texans did Thursday night. They played mostly zone defense instead of man. The first meeting, Houston played man defense against Indy, and they got burned the entire game. The Colts have the 3rd best rushing attack in the league. Defense is top 10 against the run, top 12 overall. The one weakness that this team has is under center, where they're 29th in the league in passing. I just don't see how Indianapolis can bring Jacoby Brissett back next season. All right, let's get to the NFL picks for tomorrow. First game up, Seahawks at Eagles. Current line is Philadelphia -1. I'm still rolling with the Eagles to win the NFC East, but I don't see them beating Seattle at home on Sunday. Pete Carroll is one of the better coaches in the NFL late in the season. His teams always tend to play well in November and December. We saw it last Monday night when they went into San Francisco and upset the undefeated 49ers. I was really encouraged by the Seattle defense in that game. This unit has struggled all season, but played their best game of the year against the Niners. The Eagles' offensive line is great against the run, but they struggle blocking for Carson Wentz. They're 25th in the league in sacks allowed. Jadeveon Clowney and the Seattle front four should be able to apply pressure all game. Russell Wilson and his receivers should have a field day against this weak Eagles secondary. The secondary in Philadelphia has looked good the past 3 weeks, but that was against Josh Allen, Mitchell Trubisky, and an aging Tom Brady. They've been burned by Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers. Hell, this defense was burned by Case Keenum in Washington in week 1. It's going to be difficult for this Philly defense to get off the field against Russell Wilson. Historically, Seattle has thrived in Philadelphia, outscoring the Eagles 132-38 their last 4 visits. Seahawks are 5-1 against the number their last 5 road games and 9-0 against the number their last 9 games as a dog. I like them to win this game, but I'll take the free point, Seattle +1. Next up, Steelers at Bengals. Current line, Pittsburgh -6.5. I've been calling them the Bungles all season. Haven't touched a game involving Cincinnati this year. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really like the Bungles at home against Pittsburgh. The Steelers have been decimated by injuries offensively. Running back James Conner's out. Star receiver Juju Smith-Schuster's out. Deontay Johnson's out. Mason Rudolph is terrible with a full complement of weapons. But now you're asking me to swallow nearly a touchdown with his 3 best offensive weapons on the sideline? I don't think so. The Bungles are bad. They've been trying to get that number 1 draft pick. But they have been competitive at times this season. Played the Raiders tough last week on the road. Close games against Seattle, San Francisco, Arizona, and their first meeting against the Ravens. So the Bungles have shown some fight. That being said, this game, in my opinion, has nothing to do with Cincinnati and everything to do with the Steelers. This offense wasn't moving the ball when it was healthy, and now they're banged up and going on the road. Pittsburgh is 2-6 against the spread their last 8 games as a favorite. 1-6 straight up their last 7 games on the road. I just can't swallow this many points with Mason Rudolph and a banged up offense. Taking the Bengals plus 6.5. Next up, Giants at Bears. Current line is Chicago -6. You've got to be out of your fucking mind if you think I'm swallowing points with Mitchell Trubisky under center in Chicago. As great as the Bears defense is, and as bad as the Giants defense is, there's just no way I can eat this many points with a Chicago offense that struggles to move the ball 10 yards. In my opinion, the Bears are the worst offense in the NFL. Only 1 game this season with over 300 yards of total offense. Trubisky's averaging around 183 yards a game passing. They can't run the ball. They average a measly 17 points a game. Swallowing points with this offense is just out of the question. As great as the Chicago defense is, we've seen several times this season where they've been weak against good running backs. We saw it against New Orleans, Philadelphia, and the Rams last week. Giants running back Saquon Barkley will be the focus of this New York offense and will be able to grind this Chicago front down as the game progresses. The Giants are also a good team to back on the road. 9-3 against the number their last 12 road games. This should be a low-scoring game and an easy cover for the Giants. Taking the Giants plus 6. All right, Raiders at Jets. Current line, Oakland -3. I've never been a big fan of John Gruden. I like him more in the booth on Monday Night Football than I ever have on the sidelines. But I've got to admit, he's got this Raiders team rolling right now. After going through a brutal road stretch where they spent 5 or 6 weeks away from the Bay Area, the Raiders returned home, and now they've won 3 straight. The offense is clicking, averaging 371 yards per game the last 3 weeks. The weakness of this Raiders team is the defense, mainly in the passing game. They rank near the bottom of the league defending against the pass, but that shouldn't be a problem against the Jets, who outside of Chicago is the worst passing team in the league. The Jets also struggle at home. 2-8 straight up, 2-7-1 against the number of the last 10 home games. I don't like eating points on the road, but I think Oakland wins here easily and covers, taking Oakland -3. All right, last game. Cowboys at Patriots. Current line, New England -6. You guys know when I bet the NFL, I don't like to fade the Patriots, and I don't like backing the Cowboys. But I'm going against my own trends in this spot. Tom Brady and the Patriots offense is struggling. There's no doubt about it. Did you see Tom Brady after that win against Philadelphia last week? New England wins on the road, and Brady was absolutely despondent after the game. It seems that the offensive struggles are starting to get in his head. Now, New England is unbeatable at home. Won their last 20 at Foxborough. And the Cowboys just can't beat winning teams. So there's little doubt in my mind that the Patriots win this game. I just think this is too many points for New England to cover. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game like we saw last week when the Patriots traveled to Philly. I like the Patriots to win, but I'm going to take the free points and back Dallas, taking Dallas +6. All right, to recap, we're on Seattle +1, the Bungles +6.5, Giants +6, Raiders -3, and Dallas +6. Really like the picks this week. Favorite bet of the week, I'd have to say the Giants +6 at Chicago. I think this might be the last time that we see Mitchell Trubisky under center for the Bears. Matt Nagy seems to be getting to a point where he's just ready to put Trubisky out of his misery. All right, that's all for today, guys. I'll be back Tuesday morning to recap the weekend. Hit the like and subscribe button. Leave me a comment with your NFL picks for tomorrow. If there's anything that you guys want me to cover, leave me a comment or hit me up on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Have a good weekend. I will see you Tuesday morning.